位置についた。
Contaminated tiles make both friendly and enemy units take 50 true damage per second. Friendly units also have their SP generation cut by 80%. It is recommended if you must deploy these units you need to deploy them with offensive or defensive cooldown skills. The Originium Storms do the same effect as the Contaminated Tiles except for the entire radius of said storm. Storms can consume contaminated tiles to increase its size up to a maximum of 8 whole tiles and do 200 true damage a second, retaining the SP generation reduction. When deployed and open up after a few attacks, the beacons will move the storm toward it. If there are multiple beacons, the storm will move to the most recently spawned one. Notice how the storm goes towards the closest beacon with a little green line coming out of it. Lastly, beacons can also be pull and push by different specialist operators to move them around the map. The Wither Vanguards, while possessing no real special abilities, do arts damage if they are on contaminated tiles. Boasting high defenses but low HP, they are easily susceptible to true or elemental damage, otherwise possessing no special abilities. These unblockable Wraith types will try to steal the beacon and bring it to the blue box. When they are hit, their movement speed is slowed for 1.5 seconds, which stacks up to 9 times, and when they die, they drop the beacon they stole. The Originium Storm will not follow until the beacon is dropped upon the Wraith's death. Also known as the Spiritual Curtain, the Pseudoram will attack all targets around them. Additionally, they will target allies on contaminated tiles or those left inside the Originium Storm regardless of distance, although they themselves must be on the tile or Storm 2 to attack. Think of them like a Soul Link. Like all other explosive slugs, these foul dust slugs do heavy physical damage around themselves on death. They also drop a tile of Originium contaminant on the spot. Both these abilities are silenceable though. As well, inside the Originium Storm, they will be instantly defeated and increase the storm's power as if they just consumed a contaminated tile. One of the Confessarius' creations, the Sinful Chimera have high offensive stats but move quite slowly. When coming into contact with a contaminated tile or the Originium Storm, they will change their damage type to arts and create a miniature storm that does the same effects as the aforementioned one. These little guys are like Spiritombs, housing lots of Sarkaz souls. They have remarkably low stats, except 50 res, but specifically are used to buff their fellow soul allies. The Soul Shard uses a basic attack and can absorb up to 3 Soul Vortexes to fire a beam that increases in strength for each Vortex absorbed. This beam has a 15-second cooldown. The beam only fires if a unit is in their cardinal range though. The Grails are a flying foe that reduce the damage enemies in their range take down to 5%, essentially minimum damage, and this damage is transferred to the Grail. To compensate, the Grails themselves have virtually no defenses but have 100,000 HP each. It is highly recommended to use true AoE or AoE options against multiple enemies inside of these Grail ranges to effectively destroy them with ease. Similar to the Soul Shard, the Soul Remains will absorb vortexes for their primary ability, creating up to 3 fragments that rotate counterclockwise. If they come into contact with an operator, they explode for arts damage equal to their attack. It is advised to outrange them, bait out their ability, or destroy the vortexes if possible. Otherwise, they only have a basic physical attack when blocked.
集中して。
While unable to do anything in 1411, the Nachzehrer King is significant for showing up in his sprite form, throwing his army at Rhodes Island and Logos. While ultimately winning over us for now, it's currently unclear what his form of attack is, or skills, or tactics, so we'll have to see in the future what it's like when we actually face him. The Revenant is a marginally easy boss comparative to what other story chapter bosses have been in Act 2 thus far. He is not present on the stage in his first form and relies on torrent beam emitters to attack your operators. Activating core amplifiers halts this ability, surviving 4 waves of enemies and activating all 4 amplifiers will push him into phase 2. From there, the fight becomes a beam struggle as your operators continue to hit the core amplifiers, activating them to further strengthen the beam emitters that have fallen to your side. If you somehow drag the map out too long, he will immediately fail you. The core amplifiers require you attack them 25 times to disable the beam emitters in Phase 1 and strengthen them in Phase 2. The beam emitters themselves get progressively stronger the longer they fire, so it's advised to have DPS ready to attack the core amplifiers to turn them off as soon as possible. The emitters only do damage to the first operator they hit on their lane.
Doctor, 疲れたの? それなら
The final boss of Act 2, Teresia hosts a wealth of abilities to put you and your operators into a permanent slumber. She does not move, can't be shifted, and is immune to all control effects. In her first phase, whenever a soul vortex comes into contact with her, she will absorb it, healing 3500 HP. Her primary abilities include rotating eternal dusts around her, and units who attack her when a dust is present will reduce the damage she takes by 90%. This also includes indirect damage like Necrosis Burst. If a unit blocks the dust, they will take 200 arts damage. The dusts refresh every 1.9 seconds. At 45% HP, Teresia will trap ally units in the surrounding tiles with a cocoon cage. If no ally is in range, no cages will spawn. After 400 seconds in Phase 1, she will cause the cages to spread to all adjacent tiles, slowly infecting the map. The cages themselves prevents an afflicted operator from being able to attack, nor be healed. You cannot remove the cage with status removal, and the cage will spawn on the unit that destroys the cage. This creates a cascading effect where the cage will keep an operator captured for possibly the whole map until someone sacrifices themselves to destroy it, preferably a non-essential operator. In Phase 2, Teresia will gain increased HP and defense, but suffer a res debuff. She also spawns a second set of dusts that do the same thing as the first phase. She will now occasionally spawn cages around her and immediately spawn them whenever 30% of her HP is lost, regardless of the skill cooldown. She will then revive again one more time after Phase 2 has been defeated and begin the infestation of cocoon cages, but the map will prematurely end before she can consume us whole.
Down with the queen! Great! Does the queen have that yacht? Man, shut your bitch